Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood, and you are watching The Political Vigilante. Well, it's Sunday, August 23rd, and we have some Draft Jesse Ventura updates from our friend Richard Idris from the Draft Jesse movement. Richard, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Hot, California heat, and it smells like smoke out there, but hanging in there.
Yeah, the fires are out of control.
Yeah.
And each year they're worse than the year before. Like that's what we hear every year at the fires in California. Oh, this burned more than this breaks a new record every year.
And it's exacerbated because their slave laborers all sick with COVID.
Great plan.
Yeah.
Isn't that great? What a fantastic plan that this neoliberal hellhole has done.
Amazing.
We use prison labor to fight to be a majority. I mean, there's plenty of regular firefighters that do it too, but we do use a lot of prison labor, and COVID ripped through the prison system because we have the highest prison system of any state, the most prisoners of any state in a country that has the most prisoners of any industrialized nation. And those prisoners cannot, once they rotate out and serve their time and their parole's over, they can't even get jobs with fire departments because they're felons. So we can't even recruit. We can't even say, hey, all you former prisoners that are now free members of society, we need your help to fight. We can't even do that.
Oh, yeah. They have to put their lives on the line, and then they don't get any benefits. Nothing. And then you wonder why people go back to crime, right?
Yeah, they have no choice.
Wow.
They have no choice. So with all of that happening, all the more reason that a openly environmentalist, former Navy SEAL, anti-war, former governor should be our president. So what are the updates that have happened recently? I heard that he's going to be at the Movement for a People's Party. So fill us in what's going on as of now, as of today, Sunday, August 23rd.
Yeah, so there's some exciting news on a couple of fronts. Let's start with what your viewers are probably a little more familiar with, which is the stuff around the People's Party. So what we know at this point is that the Movement for a People's Party has contacted Jesse Ventura, and they would like for him to speak at their upcoming convention on the 30th. And that's huge. Jesse's a little concerned about the tech of it because he usually calls into things, but that's something that can be troubleshooted,
But he flat out said he's going to do it, or do we?
We don't know yet. We know that he's been contacted, that he's interested, and it sounds like they might talk again soon. It's exciting news. I don't know anything beyond that because I'm not a part of the People's Party leadership. So I just kind of hear things through the grapevine. But, I mean, we've seen there's a clip that's being shared around on Twitter right now of Nick Brana saying that the People's Party would love for the Draft Jesse folks to come on board and would love for Jesse to speak there. So, they're making moves.
I think it's a perfect unity because, there's a lot about Movement for a People's Party that I like. Just on a personal level, the last year and a half, 2 years that Ron Placone and I have been on the road doing the progressive comedy tour, which will probably change to the anti-war, pro-labor socialist tour because too many people like Liz Warren and Kamala Harris have co-opted the name progressive. But we're not here to talk about marketing our comedy tour. But when we went on the road, we would always invite activist groups to set up, and sometimes the Green Party would, but the two groups that were all like consistently at a lot of our shows were Democratic Socialists of America and Movement for a People's Party. And they were very well organized, and they have been also doing smart things of trying to get, like, they got a movement person on the Chicago City Council, which is, Chicago is very old school, corrupt. And so I really like what they're trying to do. And the fact that Jesse could join them, it would be fantastic to me. I mean, I don't know, you're within the Jesse movement. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't see any reason why that would be a bad thing, right? Like, so as a younger voter, I was a kid when Jesse was involved politically. I'm in my late 20s. So I got onto this movement pretty late myself, learning about Jesse. It was like April and May when I really started learning about his policies and about his history, because I was pretty fed up with Bernie Sanders kowtowing to the Dems. Right. And I mean, our founder, Melissa, she's in the same boat. she hadn't really heard of Jesse before May, and was thrilled about both his ethos and his policies. You know, he gets right what Bernie got wrong in a lot of respects, which is he's not afraid to call out the BS in politics.
Right.
And going forward, we're going to need folks like that leading the charge, because we can't, I don't see a successful future for everyday people if we just acquiesce and get back into the Democratic Party. I don't care who their nominee is, because the party itself is poison.
It is impossible to reform this party. Somebody pointed out that, you know, Tulsi was sounded, I haven't read the tweet, but she was a pretty bitter on Twitter because she was not invited to the DNC. And I'm like, well, that's what you get, Tulsi, for thinking you can reform this party from within. Hopefully she'll wake up and leave, but we are past the point. Look, I've heard this for 30 years. We got this lesser of two evil things. I heard this for 30 years. When I was a young man in my early 20s, I really wanted, Governor Brown of California was running for president in 92. And he was very left. He's certainly become more centrist now. But I wanted him to, and when he didn't, everyone's like, well, and Bill Clinton's going to get the nomination. I was like, oh, great. I don't want him. He seems too corrupt. He seems to this. And everyone's like, yeah, but he's better than the Republicans. And okay, I was 20 or 22 or something. And I said, okay, well, at least he's getting Al Gore, who's got a good environmental record. And then in 96, I voted third party. I was like, no way. This guy, the crime bill, the sanctioning in Iraq that caused 500,000 kids to die. And I heard this in 2004. We got to get John Kerry. Anyone to stop Bush is the worst president we've ever had. And now everybody thinks Bush is some cuddly little fun. Oh, him and Michelle Obama are the funny little war criminal pals. Like it's.
Oh, yeah. They buddy up with him. And then the day after that, what does he do? He endorses Susan Collins.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable to me, so that I'm still hearing this. The Democratic Party and their convention was an absolute joke. They brought out Republicans and other warmongers like Colin Powell, who lied about weapons of mass destruction to get us into an illegal war, to attack Trump from the right. Oh, he's not strong enough on bombing and foreign policy. Like, he's trying to make peace with dictators. Like every president, every State Department head, they've all met with dictators. Like that's the job. And some of the dictators, we're okay with. If they're the Saudis, they can chop up journalists and treat women like dogs as long as they give us oil and buy our weapons. Then it's okay what they do.
All about the trade deals.
So I just the time is now. Look, we got Trump's bad and we got to get Biden in there. I don't like Trump at all, obviously, but wait, well, in 2024, I've heard that wait 4 years thing. I'm a fucking Cubs fan. So I heard the wait till next year. And I was like, I stopped going to games and the tickets went down. And this is the thing. Cub fans finally stopped going to Wrigley. That was the thing. Wow, Wrigley's so great. Well, if the team still makes money, they have no incentive to win games. People stopped going. They were like, we're done watching crappy baseball. I don't care how nice Wrigley Field is. We're done. I'm not paying $10 a beer. I'm not doing it. The season no one was buying tickets. No one was streaming their game. Nothing was happening. And they went, oh, I think it's time to bring in Theo Epstein. And oh, hey, we got a World Series. So it's like you keep giving the Democratic Party your votes and your money. They have zero incentive to do anything that you want. And yet people are still falling for that. So anyway, we could talk about those idiots for hours. I'm sorry. Sorry. But so what's the news that you are aware of? So most people might have heard about this movement for a People's Party news about there's a good chance Jesse might be speaking at their convention. What else are you aware of within the Draft Jesse movement that we should know about?
Yeah. So the other huge piece of news is that there's a group called Unity 2020, who's selected 6 candidates to be part of their primary process. They're going to nominate a presidential ticket, and Jesse Ventura is one of those 6 people. They had 250 nominees submitted from thousands of folks, just whoever they wanted to submit, and they chose the top 6 most popular, and Jesse was one of them. Another one happens to be Tulsi, and their plan is to have one candidate be president, one candidate be vice president, and in 4 years they would swap, and then they would swap again 4 years later, and it would go for 16 years like that, rotating who's the head of the ticket to try and restabilize government by giving people a third option. And so it's an interesting thing. And one of the other big points that I want to stress here is that Brett Weinstein is one of the architects behind that movement, and politically they don't intersect a lot with the folks behind the movements of the People's Party, which I think kind of proves the case that Jesse Ventura has such a wide appeal. Both of these are populist movements trying to give folks a third option that's more representative of the people, just coming at it from a different angle. And they've both settled on Tulsi and Jesse as potential nominees. So just reflect on that for a second, especially given our conversation last time.
Well, it's the thing, and it makes perfect sense, because what the Vote Any Blue Will Do crowd is they are so out of touch. They're almost worse than the Trumpers who think Trump never lies. Like, they're almost, because they should know better. Like, and the thing, they just all follow each other on Twitter, and they watch Rachel Maddow and Anderson Cooper, and they think they're informed, and they're no more than the Fox viewer. And they're so woefully out of touch. They live in these big cities or Hollywood or New York, whatever. And most of them are doing well, and they have no clue what working class people think. And they blame the 100 million people that don't vote as being lazy and apathetic, without any knowledge or willingness to learn about the corruption that is designed to keep people apathetic and not want to vote. The fact that there's the voting system, there's states that don't have mail-in votes. There's states that make it so hard for you to vote by design. Yeah. And they refuse to acknowledge that. And what's beautiful about like folks such as yourself and the Draft Jesse and the movement is they went, you know what? There's 100 million people out there that don't vote, and they're not. And some of them got excited about like Bernie Sanders, and then were completely disappointed, like we all were. And they're like, Jesse is so interesting and unique. And this is something I said about Tulsi, why I thought Bernie, the ship has obviously sailed, should have made her his VP pick, because they both intersect in this sort of libertarian. They're both anti-war. They're both, I mean, he's a Navy SEAL. She's a major in the reserves. They both have been combat deployed. And they appeal to this group of people who call the 40% of the country identifies as an independent, whether it be a right, left, center style independent. They're done with these two parties. And a bunch of people, you'd have anti-war, hippie lefties like me lining up with like center-right libertarians, who many of them are done with these anti-interventions. The thing people forget too on the left, the liberals at least, they refuse or don't want to know or don't care that Trump ran on an anti-interventionist campaign. Now, he's not doing any of that, and I didn't believe him for a second, but that anti-interventionist thing, especially as we're sitting here, a third of the country's out of work. People don't have health care. The economy everyone is just waiting for this economy to just implode. There's 28 million evictions coming in, and these two parties aren't going to do a damn thing. And it would be this interesting convergence that would make like a political revolution.
You were in the bizarro world where things made sense. The Democratic platform would have been, hey, Trump lied about getting out of the wars and giving you health care. And the impeachment trial would have been on the emoluments clause.
Yes.
But then, oh no, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Joe Biden would all be implicated. And we'd set some precedents that would clean up our government. So instead we have this half-baked Russiagate bullshit and a platform that's erasing all the environmental regulations they just promised us. And the Sunrise Movement's been co-opted. Like, what? Wake up, people. Let's vote third party. Let's vote independent. Let's get a ticket that's worthwhile. It would be amazing to... Tulsi and Jesse both kind of exposed that the left-right divide in this country is artificial.
Yes.
It's all based off of social cultural issues that the response to this is always, hey, you're putting off the concerns of the people who are suffering. But look, folks want to get health care, and then we can hash out things like people who are uncomfortable recognizing that your pronouns are different. Like we can,
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing I've said about like, especially the working class whites, some of whom lean on the conservative or, even, racist side or whatever. If you gave them jobs in healthcare and college that they never had access to, and then they'd be willing to listen to maybe why the Columbus statue needs to be taken down. Like
it comes from resentment.
Yeah.
And the reason for this is because the ruling class likes to weaponize identity in a way where, we cater to the needs of folks who suffer along racial lines, but then there is a white working class that sits there and says, what about us? And when you let them sit there and stew and you can't build a dialogue between the different elements of the working class, you let the ruling class just divide us. We were having a volunteer meeting the other day, and what I like to remind the folks is Ellen and George W. Bush, there's no way they agree on shit beyond, hey, we both want to be rich, right? And so now they're holding hands together. So, like, why can't we decide to hold hands together and say, hey, this system's bullshit?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, look, they have been very skillfully keeping the working class divided in this country since the 20s. I mean, literally, there was these labor movements in the 20s that were like every different ethnicity under the sun, all working together. And anytime that's resurfaced, Fred Hampton unifies people. Well, they put a bullet in their head, or they just break up the movement or whatever. Like anytime anybody unifies, Dr. King and Malcolm X are actually starting to see eye to eye. Oh, well, we got to get them out of there because we need the Black community divided. We need every community divided so that we can't, they know the numbers. 99 is more than 1. So if we fractionalize the 99, then that and gets them fighting with each other, it's divide and conquer, then they lose that. And that's why this is so interesting. And people are like, oh, it's a long shot, it'll never happen. Well, let me tell you something.
Even FDR ran against Huey Long in the primary, who was more left than he was way back in the 30s. So it's all been about moving the window slightly right.
That's a great point.
Keep that in mind, folks.
And and FDR was quoted as, or not quoted, but they said he didn't bring about socialism. He saved capitalism. He was the one who went to his rich buddies and said, you guys better play ball or it's guillotine time. And so the thing, and when people say, oh, this will never happen and that won't work in America. Like I always go, I said this a year and a half ago, the 2020 election, and I didn't know anything about COVID. At the time, I said, this will be the craziest election ever, and anything is possible. Anything. And the craziest shit's going to happen. And it might be bad crazy, it might be good crazy. But let me tell you something. This country is set to pop. And if somebody came in like Jesse and Tulsi and ran as a new movement for a people's party, because even the Green Party, I like the Green Party. There's a lot about that. Like, I'm not happy with this, how we're talking, but the Green can be way too like, it's too suburban hippie, it's whatever.
The label has baggage.
Yeah. It has a lot of, okay. That's just everybody up there in Boulder, Colorado. Got it.
Pretty ivory tower,
Yeah, it is. Moving for a people's party, that unifies the working class. That unifies everybody. That gets rid of all this identity politic fighting and says, no, man, we're all going to help workers. We're all going to get all of these good things. And it would unify people, because there's a lot of people who voted for Trump. Take away the diehard kind of culty, crazy Trump people. They're not that many. That's not enough of them to keep him in power. There was a lot of people that voted for Trump who were just like, this system sucks. I don't trust the Clintons as far as I could throw them. People who voted for Bernie in their primary and then went, nope. Those people who are kind of fed up, the people who like the Lincoln Project, even whatever, those people are ripe to like, I'm in on this movement thing. And on Jesse, I'm in. He's not, he's such the like tough talking, motorcycle riding, ex-Navy SEAL. Whether you like that or not, or they're going to listen more to that guy. So when that guy talks to them about anti-war and why are we spending money on all these wars and the corruption of Wall Street, they're going to listen. They're going to listen more so than they would to like a guy like me, I think.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What else do you see happening here? Is this like is unfolding and it's changing like every 5 minutes?
So Well, Unity 2020, so what they're doing right now is they have an open forum for public comments, and I can shout out the link here or in a bit, where folks can voice their support for any of the 6 candidates that are up for nomination. And then they're going to have an online voting process. They're claiming to have a plan to get ballot access in all 50 states. They have not shared what that plan is, and so we're continuing to gather pledged electors ourselves. I've got some news.
Movement for a People's Party is doing this?
This is Unity 2020.
Unity 2020. Okay.
They claim to have a ballot access plan for their ticket, and there's going to be a primary where you can vote for Jesse Ventura that we'll have news to share on, hopefully within this week. And so we see that as like a no-risk option. I mean, if Jesse wins a nomination for like a pseudo party that has ballot access that makes it easier to vote for Jesse, why wouldn't we be for that? You know?
Yes.
Especially if Tulsi's another option. There's some folks on that short list that aren't exactly appealing to some of our supporters, who seem a little bit hawkish. And then there's also folks who have clearly endorsed Biden, like Andrew Yang and Tulsi, who we would hope would back off from that stance, but it seems like Andrew Yang's kind of in the tank now.
Oh, he's been bought. He just look. This primary was great for him, man. Nobody knew who he was, so he's going to sell some books, and now he's on the speaking tour, he'll get some gig somewhere within a Democratic White House. He's set, man, and the Democratic Party will give him and trot him out and listen to his entrepreneurial libertarianism, pro free market, whenever he needs it. And he's fine. He won't buck the system because he made money within the system. And so playing ball within the system of the corrupt Democratic Party that is funded by donors and war, and the Wall Street, he's fine. It was a great move for him.
Yeah. I think the other thing that's important to note, too, is that of all the candidates that they've chosen, Jesse is the only one who has openly said, let's see what happens with this draft thing. All the other ones have either said no or haven't commented.
Yeah, it is. So that's the other news that Jesse said. He's intrigued by. He didn't know anything about it, and now he's intrigued, right?
Yeah, we have confirmed now that we have sent directly to him, and he'll be receiving an info packet outlining both Unity 2020 and the Movement for a People's Party and why he should engage both of these organizations. So we're hoping to get his creative and competitive juices flowing and get him more involved soon, because there have been some folks who are trying to tell him to wait until 2024, but we don't have 4 more years.
No, we don't. Look, we have less than 10 years to drastically do something about climate change, or we're done. Like that UN study came out 2 years ago that said we had until 2030 to get off. We have to do something drastic. Now, I believe that being drastic is actually way more feasible now, just from seeing what happened. Look, the whole world addressed a pandemic in a matter of weeks and months. I mean, and you can argue this country, obviously America's done a lot of dumb things, but overall, the whole world went, hey, we are all facing the same problem and we need to do something about it. And political and nonsense happened, but the world got together for a while, and a unintended benefit from the whole world staying home was the air got a little cleaner. Now,
yeah,
that's
right.
just reverse climate change. But I was like, so that's all we got to do is tell everybody to stay home for a month. So that means we could get everybody to do everything. We could say, hey, every country on the planet, no more single-use plastics. Hey, plastic companies, you have to use plant-based plastics. Done deal. Done deal. Everybody's got to wash their hands and cough into their elbow now and wear a mask. Done deal. Like, done deal. And so they could do it. And so it's like, it is feasible. And I've done, there's a mineral out there called Olivaria, I think. I did a video on this, and this mineral that's very abundant on this planet, you put it on the beach and it absorbs CO2 and takes it to the bottom of the ocean in a couple of years. A process that happens naturally, but over like 1,000 years, and it would absorb all this CO2. Like, boom, we could put that on every beach, and like, boom, and there's jobs in that and all this stuff. So I really feel like, but we don't have till 2024, and then maybe this. And
right.
We'll win.
None of the incrementalist shit. And that's one thing that a lot of our supporters are frustrated with the People's Party about, is they're not backing a candidate this cycle. They want to wait for 2022 and 2024. And so that's why we're hoping Jesse, appealing to both of these groups, could maybe form a coalition that can get something done in the meantime before a party forms. You know, we've got enough people that are frustrated. It was it a Pew Research or it was a Gallup poll recently that just came out that said 51 or 56% of Biden's support is just because he's not Trump.
Yeah.
Like 41 or 44% of folks now are registered independent. It's trending back up to its usual high. It usually gets to around 45% right around election time, which is higher than either party's registration numbers.
Because just wait till this. First, we're going to have to stomach this Republican convention. Then we're going to have to watch some god-awful debate. I mean, and California, as we start at the top of this conversation, is on fire. Last year, 80% of Australia was on fire for months.
I don't tell people this to alarm them. I mean, I do, but we need some perspective. So I read an article last year. You know, my day job is I teach folks how to make arguments and research. I'm a debate coach. So I was doing some research on climate change, and I read an article called Deep Adaptation, a map for navigating climate tragedy. And the article was censored, not allowed to be published in any scientific journal because they were concerned readers would get too upset, too psychologically disturbed. And the person's argument is just, if you look at all of the data, we're already past the point. And the studies that are coming out now that maybe we can make a difference are kind of just to placate our concerns. And that we should be planning to adapt, not just to stop climate change. So it's, you know, folks really got to be ready to buckle in to change this stuff. We can't put this off.
Yeah. It's, and this, that's why the incremental centrism is just like, I've heard all of this incremental I've heard this for decades, and progressives keep taking table scraps.
Yeah.
Like, well, we didn't want this, but I'll take, no. Like, how long do you need to be in this abusive relationship? How long do you need to be in a relationship with somebody that goes, well, if you leave me, you'll never find anybody better?
Well, if you can get a book deal, it's a lot easier to just, when the progressive candidate loses, go, oh, shit, looks like we got to wait 4 years. You know, I'm not going to name names, but I think you all know who I'm talking about.
You can name names. It's all good.
I don't know. They might be on the Hill. There might be two of them. They might have written us a guide this year for populists. They might not have ever brought up the exit polls. And the fact that the UN would be investigating the exit polling disparity in any other country, I go on.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, the exit poll. That's the thing. Again, neoliberals just want to scream about Russia and Trump's going to cheat this election. Oh, probably, but Democrats just
guess what just happened. Yeah,
the UN, the exit poll disparity is all the earmarks of a rigged election. Well, you know, what are you going to do?
Well, the excuse that they use is once the exit polls are electronically adjusted, they're in line. It's
okay.
So once you doctor them, they make sense. Okay, cool.
Yeah, once a mob accountant gets a hold of the books, then it wasn't a crime. Okay, that makes sense to me. Sure.
Sweet.
Okay. Yeah.
Heads back in the sand. That's
well, Richard. Thank you for taking time today. Tell us the websites that people can go to for unity and movement and all that, so people can get involved here, because the clock's ticking.
So the first thing folks should do is go to draftjesse.com and sign up for our newsletter for email updates, because we're going to have many calls of action coming out very soon. We're gathering electors still for the write-in movement. We're trying to coordinate support online for MPP to bring Jesse on board, as well as for Unity 2020 to draft him. So stay tuned there with our newsletter, draftjesse.com. The next thing is folks should go to, it's called profiles.articlesofunity.org. And that's the online forum where folks are engaging with Unity 2020 and promoting the various candidates that they've suggested. We need as much positive support for Jesse Ventura on there as possible. And also keep pushing the idea of Jesse as president and Tulsi as VP. That would really help too, because for some reason, some folks there think there has to be a left candidate and a right candidate, and Jesse and Tulsi are both left candidates, and that's getting back into the same problem. So we need folks there pushing that doesn't make any sense.
Yes.
Ventura for president, Tulsi for VP. Push that on Unity 2020.
And she's to the right of Jesse on many issues anyway.
Yeah,
so
and he could be to the right to her on some issues too. We don't. That's why it would be a great ticket, because they'd be able to hash things out, and they're both willing to engage their constituents. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't need right and the right and left right now. The Republican Party is fascist and the Democratic Party is the Republican Party of 20, 30 years ago. So we don't need any more of that right left. Like, I don't want to hear. Yeah, that's ridiculous. All right. Well, everybody go to draftjesse.com and those other two websites that Richard let us know about. Richard, thank you so much for the work you're doing and keeping us up to speed and taking time to come on the show.
Right on. Thanks, Graham.
All right, man. Richard Idris, everybody. Hey, everyone. Great ways to support the show are go to patreon.com/Graham Elwood, where you get bonus content for as little as $2 a month, or rockfin.com/Graham Elwood, a blockchain cryptocurrency platform. That's the future. Also, GrahamElwood.com, where all my merchandise is on sale and ships exclusively with the United States Post Office. Like my Vigilante Volume 2, The Dark Knight. We only made 50 of them. They're going fast. Go to GrahamElwood.com to support the show. I'm on Venmo and PayPal, P.O. Box, all of that, GrahamElwood.com.